In the heart of Willow Creek nestled a cozy hospital, its walls echoing with the quiet hum of life and healing. Here worked Sarah, a nurse whose kindness was as legendary as her dedication. From the moment she donned her scrubs each morning, her focus was unwavering, to ease suffering and offer comfort. Sarah wasn't just a nurse. She was a beacon of hope for the townsfolk. She knew their names, their stories, their fears. Whether it was holding a trembling hand during a child's vaccination or patiently explaining a complicated diagnosis to an elderly patient, Sarah approached every interaction with genuine care. Her passion for nursing wasn't just a job. It was a calling. She had always felt drawn to help others, a deep-seated need to alleviate pain and bring a smile to weary faces. This dedication was evident in every task she undertook, from meticulously checking vital signs to offering a comforting word. The small-town hospital was more than just a workplace for Sarah. It was an extension of her heart, a place where she could make a tangible difference in the lives of those around her. The morning sun streamed through the hospital windows, painting warm squares on the linoleum floor. It was one of those rare, quiet days. The emergency room was unusually calm, and the patient census was low. Sarah hummed softly as she organized her supplies, a sense of peacefulness washing over her. The atmosphere was relaxed, a stark contrast to the usual hustle and bustle. Nurses chatted quietly at the station, sharing stories about their families and weekend plans. Dr. Miller, the town's beloved physician, could be heard chuckling in his office as he shared a joke with a patient. The staff at Willow Creek Hospital were more than just colleagues. They were a family. They celebrated each other's triumphs, supported each other through tough times, and shared countless cups of coffee during long shifts. There was a sense of camaraderie that permeated every corner of the building, a feeling that they were all in this together, bound by their shared commitment to caring for their community. Even on slow days like this, their bond was palpable, a silent testament to the strength of their relationships. The tranquility of the day shattered like glass. A screech of tires, followed by a sickening thud, echoed from just outside the hospital doors. The relaxed chatter ceased instantly, replaced by a palpable sense of urgency. Sarah was the first to react, her years of training kicking in. A young U.S. Marine, his uniform torn and bloodied, lay unconscious near a mangled motorcycle. Without hesitation, Sarah knelt beside him, her hands swiftly assessing his injuries. His breathing was shallow, his pulse weak. "Trauma kit now," she barked, her voice firm and commanding, a stark contrast to her usual gentle tone. The emergency room, moments ago so quiet, transformed into a hive of activity. Nurses and doctors rushed to Sarah's side, their faces etched with concern. Sarah worked tirelessly, barking orders, inserting IVs, and monitoring his vital signs. Time seemed to warp and bend as she fought to keep him alive, her every action precise and deliberate. The Marine's life hung precariously in the balance, and Sarah was determined to do everything in her power to save him. Sarah's mind raced, analyzing the Marine's condition with lightning speed. She recognized the signs of a potential collapsed lung and, without waiting for a doctor's order, performed a needle thoracostomy to relieve the pressure. It was a risky procedure, typically reserved for physicians, but she knew it was his only chance. She anticipated the need for blood transfusions and had the lab prepare units of O-negative blood, the universal donor. While others might have hesitated, bound by protocol, Sarah trusted her instincts and acted decisively. She remembered a specialized training she'd taken years ago on trauma care in battlefield situations, and the knowledge flooded back, guiding her actions. Beyond her medical expertise, Sarah's compassion shone through. She spoke to the unconscious Marine in a soothing voice, reassuring him that he was in good hands. She held his hand, offering a human connection in the midst of the chaos. It was this combination of skill and empathy that set her apart, transforming her from a simple nurse into a lifeline for the injured Marine. She truly went above and beyond, driven by her unwavering commitment to saving his life. After what felt like an eternity, the crisis began to subside. The Marine's vital signs stabilized, and he was finally out of immediate danger. A collective sigh of relief swept through the emergency room. Sarah, exhausted but elated, watched as he was carefully transferred to the intensive care unit. The Marine had survived. It was a testament to Sarah's skill, her quick thinking, and her unwavering dedication. He was still unconscious and faced a long road to recovery, but he was alive, and that was all that mattered. The news spread quickly throughout the hospital. Doctors, nurses, and staff members congratulated Sarah, praising her heroic efforts. Even Dr. Miller, usually reserved in his praise, clapped her on the back and said, "You saved his life, Sarah. You did a remarkable job." Sarah, however, remained humble, deflecting the praise and simply stating, "We all did what we had to do." But deep down, she felt a profound sense of satisfaction, knowing that she had made a real difference. The Marine was stable, and now he just needed time to heal. A few days passed. The Marine, whose name Sarah learned was Corporal Johnson, remained in the ICU, slowly but steadily improving. Sarah often checked on him, offering words of encouragement and ensuring he was comfortable. One afternoon, as Sarah was making her rounds, she was approached by a group of uniformed soldiers. They stood tall and proud, their faces etched with a mixture of gratitude and concern. "Excuse me, ma'am," one of them said, his voice respectful. "We're here to see the nurse who saved Corporal Johnson's life." Sarah, surprised and touched, identified herself. The soldiers' faces lit up with relief. They explained that they were Corporal Johnson's comrades and wanted to express their deepest appreciation for her heroic actions. They had heard about everything she had done to save him and felt compelled to thank her in person. Their visit brought a warmth to the hospital, a tangible reminder of the bonds of loyalty and camaraderie that extended far beyond its walls. The soldiers' gratitude was palpable, filling the room with a warmth that transcended mere politeness. They spoke of Corporal Johnson's unwavering spirit and his dedication to his country, emphasizing how much he meant to them. Their words were heartfelt and genuine, reflecting the deep bond they shared as brothers in arms. As a token of their appreciation, they presented Sarah with a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was a simple gift, but its significance was immense. One of the soldiers explained that it was made by a local artisan near their base and symbolized strength, resilience, and the unwavering support they offered one another. Inside the box, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a challenge coin. It wasn't just any coin. It was the coin of their unit, a symbol of belonging and shared sacrifice. Presenting it to Sarah was their way of welcoming her, an honorary member, into their ranks, acknowledging her extraordinary service and her unwavering commitment to saving one of their own. Sarah was deeply moved, tears welling up in her eyes as she accepted their gift. Unbeknownst to Sarah, the hospital administrator, Mr. Thompson, had been observing the scene from a distance. He stood near the entrance to the ICU, his face unreadable. While the other staff members beamed with pride at Sarah's recognition, Mr. Thompson's expression was noticeably different. He didn't smile, nor did he seem pleased by the soldier's heartfelt display. Instead, a subtle frown creased his brow, and his eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the interaction unfold. He lingered for a moment longer, his gaze fixed on Sarah and the soldiers, before turning abruptly and disappearing down the hallway. His demeanor was unsettling, a stark contrast to the warmth and gratitude that permeated the room. It was a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, but it hung in the air like a dark cloud, foreshadowing trouble. Sarah, caught up in the moment, didn't notice Mr. Thompson's reaction, but the seeds of unease had been sown. The encounter, seemingly innocent, was about to trigger a series of events that would change her life forever. The following morning, Sarah was summoned to Mr. Thompson's office. The summons was delivered by a nervous-looking secretary who avoided eye contact. A knot of apprehension tightened in Sarah's stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She knocked softly on the administrator's door and entered. Mr. Thompson sat behind his large desk, his face stern and unyielding. He gestured for her to sit without offering a greeting. The atmosphere in the room was cold and formal, a stark contrast to their usual interactions. "Sarah," he began, his voice devoid of warmth, "we've made a difficult decision. He paused, shuffling some papers on his desk. Effective immediately, your employment at Willow Creek Hospital is terminated. Sarah was stunned. The words hung in the air, heavy and incomprehensible. Fired? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. But why? The shock was overwhelming, leaving her reeling and utterly confused. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as the reality of his words began to sink in. Mr. Thompson avoided Sarah's direct gaze, his eyes darting around the room. There have been concerns, he mumbled, his voice lacking conviction, regarding your adherence to hospital protocol. He cited vague examples of insubordination and deviation from established procedures, without providing any specific instances. He mentioned the needle thoracostomy she had performed on Corporal Johnson, claiming it was an unauthorized procedure that put the hospital at risk. He glossed over the fact that it had saved the Marine's life. The reasons he offered felt flimsy and contrived, a desperate attempt to justify an unjust decision. Sarah knew in her heart that these weren't the real reasons. There was a hidden motive, something lurking beneath the surface that Mr. Thompson was unwilling to reveal. His explanations were vague and unconvincing, only serving to deepen the mystery surrounding her termination and suggesting a more sinister agenda at play. The injustice of it all was sickening. Leaving Mr. Thompson's office, Sarah felt as though she were walking through a nightmare. The hospital, once a sanctuary, now felt cold and alien. How could this be happening? Just days ago, she had saved a life and been celebrated for her actions. Now she was being dismissed, her career seemingly ruined. The confusion was overwhelming. She replayed the events of the past few days in her mind, searching for an explanation, a logical reason for this sudden turn of events. Had she truly violated protocol? Had she jeopardized the hospital? The thought seemed absurd. The devastation was profound. Nursing wasn't just a job for Sarah. It was her passion, her calling. It was how she made a difference in the world. Now that was being taken away from her, and she didn't understand why. Tears welled up in her eyes as she walked towards the exit, the challenge coin still clutched tightly in her hand, a painful reminder of the gratitude she had received just yesterday, now overshadowed by the crushing weight of injustice. She was lost and adrift, unsure of what the future held. News of Sarah's firing spread through Willow Creek Hospital like wildfire. The initial reaction was disbelief. How could they fire Sarah, the kindest, most dedicated nurse on staff? The woman who had just saved a Marine's life? It made no sense. As the reality of the situation sank in, disbelief turned to outrage. Nurses whispered in hallways, doctors shook their heads in disgust, and even the maintenance staff expressed their disapproval. Sarah was universally loved and respected, and the thought of her being treated so unfairly ignited a firestorm of anger and resentment. Many of her colleagues refused to believe the reasons given for her termination. They knew Sarah, knew her character, and knew that she would never intentionally jeopardize a patient or the hospital. The vague accusations of insubordination and protocol violations rang hollow, further fueling their suspicions of a hidden agenda. A sense of injustice permeated the hospital, threatening to erupt into open rebellion. The close-knit community of Willow Creek Hospital was about to be tested. Corporal Johnson, still weak but steadily recovering in the ICU, overheard a hushed conversation between two nurses. They spoke of Sarah's firing, their voices filled with disbelief and anger. He listened intently, piecing together the details of the injustice. The news hit him hard. He owed his life to Sarah, and the thought of her being punished for saving him filled him with a burning sense of obligation. He couldn't stand idly by while she was being treated so unfairly. Despite his fragile condition, Corporal Johnson felt a surge of determination. He vowed to help Sarah in any way he could. He knew he couldn't do it alone, but he was confident that his fellow soldiers would stand by him. He was a Marine, and Marines never leave a comrade behind, especially one who had saved their brother's life. He resolved to uncover the truth behind Sarah's firing and to ensure that justice was served. His recovery had just taken on a new purpose. As soon as Corporal Johnson was able to make phone calls, he contacted his unit. He explained the situation to his fellow Marines, emphasizing Sarah's heroism and the blatant injustice of her firing. Without hesitation, they pledged their support. They started by discreetly contacting nurses and other hospital staff, gathering information and piecing together the events leading up to Sarah's termination. They learned about Mr. Thompson's uneasy reaction to their visit and the vague, unsubstantiated reasons given for her dismissal. The more they learned, the more convinced they became that foul play was involved. They suspected that there was more to this than met the eye, a hidden agenda that Mr. Thompson was desperately trying to conceal. They decided to dig deeper, to uncover the real reason behind Sarah's firing, no matter how difficult or dangerous it might be. Their investigation had begun, fueled by loyalty, gratitude, and an unwavering commitment to justice. They knew this wouldn't be easy, but Marines are trained to overcome obstacles, and they wouldn't rest until they had uncovered the truth. The Marines' investigation was methodical and thorough. They faced numerous obstacles, including reluctant witnesses, locked files, and a general atmosphere of fear and intimidation within the hospital. Mr. Thompson, sensing that he was under scrutiny, became increasingly guarded and secretive. Despite the challenges, the Marines persevered. They interviewed staff members off-site, promising anonymity and protection. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Several nurses revealed that Mr. Thompson had been implementing cost-cutting measures that compromised patient care. Others spoke of his ambition to climb the corporate ladder and his willingness to do whatever it took to achieve his goals. They uncovered financial irregularities and suspicious transactions involving hospital funds. They also discovered that Mr. Thompson had been in frequent contact with representatives from a large private healthcare company. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place, revealing a disturbing picture of greed, ambition, and a blatant disregard for the well-being of the community. The Marines were closing in on the truth, but they knew that Mr. Thompson wouldn't give up without a fight. The Marines discovered a series of encrypted emails between Mr. Thompson and executives at Global Health Solutions, a powerful private healthcare company known for acquiring struggling hospitals and implementing drastic changes to maximize profits. The emails revealed a carefully orchestrated plan to destabilize Willow Creek Hospital, making it appear financially unsustainable and poorly managed. This would then justify a takeover by Global Health Solutions, who would swoop in as the savior, promising to revitalize the hospital while ultimately prioritizing profits over patient care. Mr. Thompson was promised a lucrative position within Global Health Solutions in exchange for his cooperation. He was essentially selling out his community for personal gain, willing to sacrifice the well-being of his patients and the jobs of his staff to line his own pockets. The connection was undeniable. Sarah's firing was a calculated move to create chaos and further the agenda of Global Health Solutions. The Marines now had their smoking gun. Mr. Thompson's strategy was chillingly calculated. By firing Sarah, a beloved and respected nurse, he aimed to create a narrative of instability and mismanagement within the hospital. The implication was clear. If even a dedicated employee like Sarah could be dismissed for violating protocol, the hospital was clearly out of control. He twisted her act of kindness, her quick thinking in saving Corporal Johnson's life, into a liability. He portrayed her decisive actions as reckless and unauthorized, painting her as a rogue employee who disregarded established procedures. The soldier's visit, intended as a gesture of gratitude, was used against her, highlighting her supposed insubordination and disregard for authority. It was a cruel and ironic twist of fate. Sarah's dedication and compassion, the very qualities that made her an exceptional nurse, were weaponized against her to justify her termination and pave the way for the hospital takeover. The Marines realized the full extent of Mr. Thompson's treachery and were determined to expose his lies and restore Sarah's reputation. With the truth within their grasp, the Marines focused on solidifying their evidence. They needed irrefutable proof of Mr. Thompson's collusion with Global Health Solutions to present to the community and the authorities. They worked tirelessly, poring over financial records, downloading encrypted emails, and gathering sworn statements from nurses and other hospital staff willing to testify against Mr. Thompson. They meticulously documented every instance of cost-cutting that compromised patient care, every suspicious transaction, and every communication between Mr. Thompson and Global Health Solutions. They consulted with a lawyer who advised them on how to present their evidence in a clear and compelling manner. They knew that they were up against powerful forces, but they were determined to fight for Sarah and for the future of Willow Creek Hospital. Their goal was simple: to expose Mr. Thompson's corrupt scheme and ensure that he was held accountable for his actions. They had all the pieces. Now they just needed to assemble them into an airtight case. Knowing they couldn't fight this battle alone, the Marines reached out to the local community. They shared their findings with key community leaders, explaining Mr. Thompson's scheme and the threat it posed to Willow Creek Hospital. They emphasized that the hospital was more than just a building. It was a vital resource, a source of jobs, and a symbol of the town's identity. They also contacted Sarah's former colleagues, urging them to stand up against the injustice and support her reinstatement. Many nurses, doctors, and other staff members, already outraged by Sarah's firing, readily agreed to help. Together, the Marines, community leaders, and hospital staff organized a town meeting to discuss the situation, and the town hall was packed, every seat filled with concerned citizens, hospital staff, and community leaders. The atmosphere was tense, a mixture of anger, anxiety, and anticipation. Corporal Johnson, still recovering but determined to be there, stood at the podium, supported by his fellow Marines. He began by recounting his accident and how Sarah's quick thinking had saved his life. He spoke of her compassion and dedication, emphasizing that she was the kind of nurse every patient deserved. Then, he and his comrades presented the evidence they had gathered, laying bare Mr. Thompson's corrupt scheme and Global Health Solutions' ruthless plan to take over Willow Creek Hospital. They showed the encrypted emails, presented the financial records, and shared the sworn statements from hospital staff. The evidence was overwhelming, leaving no doubt about Mr. Thompson's guilt. The community listened in stunned silence, their faces etched with disbelief and outrage. The truth was out, and the battle for Willow Creek Hospital had begun. The evidence presented at the town meeting ignited a firestorm of outrage within the community. People gasped, whispered, and shook their heads in disbelief as the extent of Mr. Thompson's betrayal became clear. One by one, members of the community stood up to voice their anger and demand justice. Nurses and doctors spoke passionately about Sarah's dedication and compassion, refuting Mr. Thompson's false accusations. Community leaders condemned his greed and his willingness to sacrifice the hospital for personal gain. The crowd erupted in chants of "Resign Thompson" and "Bring back Sarah." The demand for Mr. Thompson's resignation and Sarah's immediate reinstatement was deafening. The community was united in its determination to fight for their hospital and for the nurse who had always been there for them. The tide had turned, and Mr. Thompson's scheme was crumbling before his eyes. The people of Willow Creek had spoken, and their message was clear. They would not stand idly by while their hospital was being stolen from them. Faced with the overwhelming evidence and the united front of the community, Mr. Thompson had no choice but to resign. His reputation was ruined, his career in shambles, and his dreams of a lucrative position with Global Health Solutions were shattered. Global Health Solutions, seeing their scheme exposed and facing intense public scrutiny, quickly withdrew their takeover bid. They realized that acquiring Willow Creek Hospital would be a public relations disaster, and they wanted no part of it. The community of Willow Creek had triumphed. They had stood up against greed and corruption and had protected their hospital from being exploited for profit. The victory was sweet, but they knew that their work was not yet complete. They still needed to ensure that Sarah was reinstated and that Willow Creek Hospital remained a pillar of the community for years to come. The administrator was gone, and the takeover was thwarted, but the celebration was tempered with the knowledge that there was still work to be done. The interim administrator, a kind and level-headed woman named Mrs. Davies, contacted Sarah the very next day. She offered Sarah her job back, along with a sincere apology for the injustice she had suffered. "Sarah," Mrs. Davies said, her voice filled with remorse, "we were wrong. You are a valuable asset to this hospital, and we are so grateful for everything you do." She assured Sarah that her actions in saving Corporal Johnson's life were not only justified but heroic. News of Sarah's reinstatement spread like wildfire throughout Willow Creek. The town erupted in celebration. A banner was hung across Main Street proclaiming, "Welcome back, Sarah." She was hailed as a local hero, a symbol of courage, compassion, and the unwavering spirit of the community. The townspeople organized a parade in her honor, showering her with flowers, cards, and heartfelt expressions of gratitude. Sarah, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, could only smile and wave, her heart filled with joy and gratitude. The nightmare was over, and she was finally home. Without hesitation, Sarah accepted her job back. She belonged at Willow Creek Hospital, serving her community, and she wouldn't let the actions of one corrupt administrator deter her from her calling. She was deeply grateful for the unwavering support she had received from Corporal Johnson, his fellow soldiers, and the entire community. Their loyalty and determination had made all the difference, exposing the truth and restoring her reputation. As she walked through the doors of the hospital on her first day back, she was greeted with cheers, hugs, and heartfelt welcomes. Her colleagues, relieved and overjoyed, surrounded her, expressing their gratitude for her courage and her unwavering commitment to patient care. Sarah knew that she was incredibly fortunate to be part of such a caring and supportive community. She had learned a valuable lesson about the power of unity and the importance of standing up for what is right. She felt ready to continue her work, her spirit renewed and her dedication stronger than ever. And so, life in Willow Creek returned to normal, but with a newfound sense of unity and purpose. Sarah continued to work as a nurse, her dedication and compassion shining brighter than ever before. The experience had only strengthened her resolve to provide the best possible care to her patients and to advocate for their well-being. Corporal Johnson made a full recovery and, along with his fellow Marines, became a regular visitor to Willow Creek, forging lasting bonds with the community. They were forever grateful for Sarah's heroism and for the unwavering support they had received from the townspeople. Willow Creek Hospital remained a pillar of the community, a place where patients could receive quality care from dedicated professionals who genuinely cared about their well-being. The story of Sarah, the Marine, and the corrupt administrator became a local legend, a reminder of the power of unity, the importance of standing up for what is right, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The hospital continued to serve as a beacon of hope and healing, its walls echoing with the quiet hum of life and the unwavering commitment of its staff.